Ever wonder who's got the most reliable luxury brand from these? Lexus, Acura, or Infiniti? This seems like a very compelling question when you're out searching for your next new Japanese luxury car and you don't necessarily want something from the Germans or the British. You want something that you believe is more reliable. Well, I'm gonna break this down roughly, gonna give you some of the highs and lows of Lexus, Acura, and Infiniti, some of the big changes and some of the impacts to reliability, so you can go out there armed with the right choice if you're buying your next new luxury Japanese vehicle. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
Let's take this from the top. First of all, we'll talk about Lexus. As we see right here, this is a UX 250H. So what we have here is a turbo 4-cylinder engine in all its beautiful trim. Of course, big sunroof. It's glorious LC500 mirrors, and we have the big mouth grille. Now, this is their subcompact SUV in the Lexus world, and sadly, Acura doesn't actually have a vehicle to compete with this vehicle. So if you want something like this, you're gonna have to go pretty much to Lexus. How about Infiniti? Well, they don't really have the direct competitor either. And while Lexus is known for one of the most reliable vehicles on the planet, this vehicle is very unpolished. For a luxury brand you're getting from Lexus, this is a vehicle that's a little bit underwhelming, the ride's a little jarring, and quite frankly, leaves a little bit determined. Then we look at some vehicles like this. This is the wonderful RX. It's the older generation. As you can tell, the grille is the older style. You have the older style headlights and the beautiful brushed aluminum wheels, LC500 mirrors, and lots of light on top, shining in for all the happy customers, because this is the RX model that had the outgoing engine, which is in the RX 350, means that you're getting the naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6, makes cracking 300 ponies or thereabouts, and it's made it up to an automatic transmission. So very reliable, and probably one of most reliable engines that you'll find in the Lexus drivetrain. Now the beauty is with that 3.5 liter V6 you're finding in the outgoing Lexus vehicles, including the RX 350, is that it has that 3.5 liter V6, which is both port and fuel and direct to fuel injection, means that you don't just get the metering and performance of the direct injection, but you can pretty much wash all of the carbonization that you get from direct injection with the port fuel injection. Very few manufacturers are doing that these days. Then what we have here is a beautiful, one of the latest and greatest, you can tell, new style grille, gorgeous looking unit, new style LEDs, I love that. Beautiful wheels here, and look, LC500 mirror. What we have is an NX 350 in all of its glory here. You do get a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine in this, 2.4 liter engine. Of course, it does come with a beautiful sunroof on top, beautiful trim on the sides, and I love this new light bar back here by Lexus. This is the NX 350, it does give you all-wheel drive, and this is one of the old school vehicles that you can actually still get because it's turbo 4, but it actually comes with a torque converter automatic transmission. If you step into the NX, of course, you can move into other vehicles, and at 350H, then it's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, no turbos, but it gives you the hybrid, which is on a planetary gear system, much more reliable than the Jatco stuff that you're finding in a lot of the Infiniti products. And Acura doesn't even go there. They pretty much just keep it real with most of their modern day vehicles sporting a 10-speed automatic torque converter transmission. Then over here we have a brother from another mother. As you can see, we have Infiniti and we have Nissan, the Armada, which is the baby brother to the Infiniti. As we're looking at the QX80, has the big pink style taillights, big chrome wheels, little handles, and of course a large roof rack to keep everything bolted up top. Now, of course, the QX80 and the Nissan Armada are more or less the same vehicle. This does, the older model here comes with a 5.6 liter naturally aspirated V8, and this is probably one of Infiniti's better vehicles in their arsenal. Yeah, it's a little bit of an eyesore there, and it has Pep Boy Canadian Tire style grills. As you can see, a 5.6 and a basic looking mirror. But the reality is, because it's built on a truck platform, the naturally aspirated 5.6 liter V8 was a staple for them. Not as perfect as what you find in the 5.7s in the Lexus GX models, but it does very well on its own. The beauty with the vehicle like the QX80, like we're looking at here, is again, it's full size on a full size truck platform versus a lot of the mid-size SUVs in the Infiniti lineup, which are more on a unibody minivan style chassis, as you're finding in a lot of the Lexus vehicles. Same story. The RX, the NX, the UX are all on unibody platforms, where the only competition for this right now is the Sequoia by Toyota, as well as the Lexus LX is direct competition for this vehicle, and possibly even the GX. But Acura, unfortunately, does not have a full-size truck SUV like we're looking at here. Okay, so who's got the most reliable brand of these three manufacturers? Lexus, Acura, or Infiniti? Well, let's look at an Acura here. First of all, here's a full-size sedan. Now, Now this is the outgoing TL model. The replacement was a TLX, which is a current generation car and would be more or less competition for this Lexus vehicle that we're looking at right here. Now this is touted as one of Lexus' most reliable vehicles on the planet. Yes, this is an ES300H, comes with a turbo 4-cylinder engine and a hybrid drivetrain and a CVT transmission, which again, planetary gears. Toyota does it best. They don't use the belts and pulleys like the Jatco you get in the Nissan or Infiniti products, and that's what makes this vehicle ultra reliable. It also is by default drivetrain with the front wheels driving. If you get the all-wheel drive version, you can get 4 wheels clomping away. And the Acura comes with a different set of drivetrains. The TLX version actually has a 2-liter turbo 4, which makes about 275 ponies, or you can pony up and get the 3-liter twin turbo V6 and the all-wheel drive system with the front wheel drives being default, and you can step into the 3-liter twin turbo V6 and 355 ponies. Makes the Type S a real little rocket ship. Now the technology is very similar in all of these makes. The difference is the interior fit and finish is going to be a little bit better on the Lexus versus the Acuras. Now generally, if you were to ask me which one was more reliable, I would almost always automatically say Toyota Lexus products, but things have changed. Here's an example of the latest and greatest Lexus product, and we're looking at the latest model by Lexus, being the GX550. As you see right here, this features a beautifully powered 3.4-liter twin turbo V6 that whops out a significant amount of performance. It's fun, it's peppy, it's frisky, and it's more fuel efficient than the outgoing. And this is the base model. But even with all this goodness, and there is a lot of this looks a lot like a Land Rover Defender with more reliable skins to it. Of course, we have this beautiful headlight system here, more of a Toyota looking grille on there. It looks very much like a Tundra up front. I love the design of this, how they taper it up, and it's got that nice sight line down the side. Gorgeous. Love this beautiful late bar back here, beautiful, as well as the Lexus script that you can see. But we all notice that there's been lots of people complain with that drivetrain when equipped in the new Tundra that has had significant amount of problems. There's been lots of people with hub issues. There's been people with wastegate issues with the turbocharger because now you're adding more complexity. There's been people complaining about rod bearings and blown engines. There's one customer that's had actually on his 3rd engine on his new Tundra with the 3.4 because he's blown the engine, the bottom end. Yes, the rod bearings have let go. And so Acura builds some beautiful SUVs, as you find in the MDX, which is a good mid-size SUV throughout. It has all kinds of LEDs on the back. You get beautiful chrome touches that you'll notice carbon on there, but chrome detailing throughout. But the problem is a lot of Acura products are still rocking a timing belt. Lexus, no, we're back to timing chains. How are manufacturers still using timing belts? But it's a thing with many of the Honda products, as well as a lot of the Acura products like we're looking at right here in the MDX. Now, these vehicles too have had some issues. We know about some hesitation, some surging, some drivability issues. We've also heard about premature battery draws, as well as electronic issues. Transmissions, a big issue that some Honda products as well as some Acuras have actually experienced, flat out catastrophic transmission problems. Yes, oil consumption is another issue that some of these are seeing, and so Acura isn't perfect either. So who is perfect? It's not Infiniti. As we look right here is an older generation of the QX50. They have a great breakthrough styling on these vehicles. Nice humps and curves. They're very curvaceous in these vehicles. And if you look, big, beautiful wheels and an amazing looking front end on these units right there. But there's something specific, and this one carries the 3.7 liter. Which is arguably one of Infiniti's best engines. The 3.7 liter V6 engine was one of their best. The problem against are some of the new drivetrains and of course the infamous Jatco transmissions, which is a CVT, which is a host of pulleys and shivs, or essentially steel belts that drive the transmission of these vehicles, as opposed to most vehicles using a torque converter. And so here's an example of an outgoing model by Lexus that's parked right behind here. It's the older GX, and what you'll see is this one has an interesting windshield wiper that actually is logged up there and comes down. This is the GX460, and so this is one of the more reliable Lexus models, again built on a full-size pickup truck platform. 4.6 liter V8 naturally aspirated, will literally run forever. It's been replaced with that new 3.4 liter twin turbo V6, but that is going to be missed because that's what Lexus did, was created some very reliable naturally aspirated V8 engines, and the LX570 is the bigger brother, infamously reliable 1UZ FE engine that was pumped into models like the Tundra, the Toyota Sequoia, as well as the Lexus LX and the Toyota Land Cruiser. And then here we have one of the more reliable Lexus models known to mankind. This is an IS series of vehicle. And the older versions, there was a variety of different drivetrains. Most recently, we had a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 in top trim, which was the IS350. There was a detuned version, IS300, gives you a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine in base IS300 series. And as we see, turbocharging is adding a level of complexity to what is otherwise a very reliable brand, Lexus. And time will tell now as they're introducing much more turbocharging, wastegate, extra plumbing, extra heat, we'll see. And Lexus also creates one of the most reliable sports cars on the market. Compare that to some of its competitors, the Jaguar F-Type. This will blow it out of the water. Mercedes-Benz GT series cars, this will blow it out of the water. And it sounds great, and it's fairly quick too. Now, while this isn't 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, this here will do 0 to 60 in low 4s because it has a naturally aspirated V8 engine, 5 liters displacement, 472 horsepower, and it's coupled up to a rear-wheel drive gearbox. This is the LC500H, which is the hybrid V6 version, but the standard 500 LC is the version that gives you that V8 engine. These are absolutely gorgeous and ultra reliable. And Lexus also has one of the biggest granddaddy of cars right here, big luxury sedan. This is an LS500 all-wheel drive. Again, coming from a same series of engine, V8 engine, tucked under the hood right there. It is gorgeous and powerful and reliable. It's just a little heavy on fuel, and that's really the only complaint most customers have. And over here is probably Infiniti's closest relationship to the Lexus IS series, or as the Acura TLX. Here we have a more basic set of headlights because this vehicle's a little long in the tooth is what we're getting, but it's got a decent drivetrain in this unit. It does have a very basic stance, unoffensive, and it has its quirky areas. But let's take a look. Beautiful pearlescent paint on this particular model. This is the Q50 that we've got here. LED taillights, beautiful chrome detailing on the Infiniti there, and of course you've got backup sensors and all the usual gambit of technology. I love the hips here. You can see how it sort of flares up, and they have this great little detail right here that sails all along with this beautiful chrome detailing. Here, of course, dual handles, chrome, easy access in there. And it's a beautiful vehicle. Comes with a 7-speed automatic. That's right, no CVT here because CVTs have been disastrous for Infiniti and Nissan, but this actually gives you the 7-speed torque converter tranny, and it hooks up all-wheel drive, 300 horsepower in V6 3-liter trim, or step up into the red hot version with 400 ponies. Makes the car quite interesting and a real conversation piece because it's naturally aspirated. There's not many vehicles out there like that these days. And in Acura world, the TLX, sure, you can get the small turbo 4 or you can get the larger turbo 6, but you get front wheel drive predominantly, and here you don't. And most people who prefer a luxury car prefer it with rear wheel drive. So while the Lexus IS series comes default with rear wheel drive, the ES series is predominantly front wheel drive. So before we dive into actually ranking these vehicles the best to the worst, let's share another example of one of these luxury SUVs on our market that clearly has some pluses and minuses. Right here, we're looking at another great little Acura. This is the RDX, which we've already spoke of. This is a smaller vehicle, competes directly with the Lexus NX, as well as the Infiniti QX50. This one here has some beautiful wheels on there. Of course, small Honda style handles. Of course, beautiful light there. And you do get a sunroof on top. It's a beautiful little rig right here. Turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Gets you about 270 horsepower. 10-speed automatic transmission in the latest versions. And yes, it's that timing belt. Why are manufacturers doing that? And that is a weakness with some of these models that you're getting from the Acura front, is many of them have timing belts, whereas Lexus, it's all timing chains. They have dual fuel injection on some of their engines, the V6s and the 4-cylinders, and yet we're dealing with this. The other hand is on the Infiniti front, a lot of their engines are still naturally aspirated, but their downfall are a lot of their vehicles have that infamously unreliable, continuously variable transmission. And with great cars that look great like this, are reliable with that 3.5 liter V6, they're fun to drive. They don't have a lot of competition. Infiniti has the G37, which is losing a lot of its luster, but if you want a sports car, that would be its closest competitor. As well, that is a naturally aspirated V6 engine, and it is actually quite fun to drive, so that would be a close competitor to this particular vehicle with a little less reliability dialed in. Then, unfortunately, in the Acura front, the best thing they've got is the Integra, which is a front-wheel drive turbo 4-cylinder engine. and it's just not quite the same pizzazz as this vehicle. Now, some argue that it's a lot of fun to drive, but what is the reliability of modern day small displacement turbo engines? Not great. Think 1.5 liter turbo engine with the oil and fuel dilution issues. That's what you're getting in those small turbo Honda engines. Now, as we already showed you, this is the older generation of 2014 Infiniti QX50, and it's long since changed quite dramatically. As a matter of fact, in 2019, they came out and they went from one of the most reliable engines with a naturally aspirated V6 to one of the inherently most innovative but least reliable engines that you're going to find in any manufacturer today, just because they went a little bit too far. Well, yeah, Infiniti, they come out with all this great technology. Of course, the latest and greatest in 2019 with the CVT transmission, that wasn't the only problem that you saw in Infinitis. They came out with what they call a variable compression engine. Makes about 260 horsepower. It's turbocharged, it's 4-cylinder. But instead of a connecting rod, connecting your crankshaft to your piston, instead you have a series of joints that are actuated electronically that keep the vehicle variable and moving. There's many different moving parts, different joints, and those engines are notoriously known for oil consumption and potentially catastrophic failure. Way too much going on. And while the innovation is kind of interesting, if you're looking for a reliable vehicle, that's probably not where you want to go. And then Lexus is always busy keeping us on our toes with a lot of the nomenclature. Here we have the latest and greatest RX 500H. Yes, let's take a quick look, and you do have some beautiful wheels. This is a matte finish. This is the F Sport and the LC 500 mirrors. You do get a large glass roof, and of course, I love this top here. But indeed, you do get some great looking styling detail, and as well, you see the Lexus logo. I like the script as well as the light bar along here. But you'll notice, this is an RX 500H Direct 4. That's right. This car actually has rear wheel steering, which adds another level of complexity, but it also features a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 2.4 liter engine here. Normally, if it was in the 350H, you would get yourself a CVT transmission, which is not as well as the pulleys as you're finding in the Nissan products, but instead you're going to get yourself a 6-speed automatic transmission in this one, and as well as the 350H, you're actually getting a planetary gear setup with a punchy first gear just to get you going, to reduce the stress on the rest of the gearing system, and that's what you typically get with the Lexus or Toyota products. But Toyota clearly has it dialed in. Their CVT transmissions are much more robust without having all of that extra belts and pulleys that need high maintenance and dirtying of oil. You also have turbocharged 4-cylinders, turbocharged 6-cylinder engines, which yet haven't been totally proven yet. But let's dive right in and share the summary of the most reliable manufacturers from Infiniti, Acura, as well as Lexus. First of all, from number 3, the least reliable, in my opinion, comes down to Infiniti. They've had their share of issues. They've had oil consumption problems, transmissions all over sporadically with Jatco issues. CVTs have been a problem for a lot of Nissan and Infiniti products. They've also had drivability issues, electronic gremlins, infotainment system, fuel systems, and sunroofs that blow out. It's just an unreliable brand for the most part. Is it unreliable compared to a Jeep? No, it's much better than that type of product, but it's the least reliable of this brand. So that gets my number 3. My number 2, well, here we go. The drum roll comes down to the manufacturer that has enjoyed years and reputations of reliability. Things have changed. They've gone to smaller engines, 1.5s in the Honda line. And of course, now Acura is my number 2 slot because it has problems with some of those smaller turbocharged engines. Transmissions aren't necessarily perfect, and they're still rocking a timing belt, with Lexus finishing off the top. Now, it comes with a caveat. Lexus is not perfect, and no manufacturer is. And with all of that said, check out 2024's most reliable vehicles. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.